Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our never ending nerdventure through the universe of graphic storytelling. My name is Will, and today, the offset camera is back. I can only mean one thing: it's haul time. Again, if you saw my last video, I am a little sick in the throatal nasal regions, so my dulcet tones might be a little bit off today. And I might have some throat clearing. I apologize, but I needed to jump on and do this haul before it got even crazier than it is, because this is, I would say, pretty much without a doubt the biggest haul that I've had. It's not going to be in any particular order today. It is just going to be a huge, gigantic haul of lots of different things, and I'm going to talk about it. And interestingly, I check the traffic on a lot of my videos, and the haul videos that I do always do much better than the rest of them. So I guess that's something that people really enjoy watching. Um, the result, or not the result, this haul is a result, rather, of the fact that it was my birthday recently, the end of the last month, and since I'm a lonely, nerdy, single, mid 20 something person, what better way to wallow in sadness than, order yourself some books to make yourself feel better? No, I'm kidding. But, only partially. But, yeah, so this is mostly a birthday haul slash mix of other things that I've been picking up recently. So, lots of goodies in here from a lot of different places and different genres and things. So, I'm excited to show it off to you guys. And without further ado, we will get going with me showing these books and just briefly talking about them. Some of them I plan on reviewing very soon. Some of them will go on the shelf and probably will not be heard from again for upwards of a year until I actually read them. So let's get cracking. This first set is something that I have been looking to add to my collection for a little while. They are sort of part and parcel with the stuff that I've been collecting recently. As far as British comic strips go, the Modesty Blaze books that I had been showing, as well as that single Garth book thing that I had shown. But this is the James Bond comic strip omnibus set from Titan Books or Titan Comics. I believe it's actually Titan Books. Yes, it's confusing because there's a Titan Books and a Titan Comics, and I think that they are under a similar company banner, or at least have some relation to each other, but their contents and websites are different, so I'm not quite sure. Either way, I had seen these before, this James Bond omnibus, and I gotta say the reason I was gonna pass on it is because these covers are ridiculously terrible. Like, I didn't really know what this was. I thought it was like, I thought it was some kind of like cheap, crappy junk. I mean, these covers are awful. They look like Photoshop covers that you would see like at Walmart or something like that for like bestsellers. But what this actually is a collection of the comic strips from British newspapers. And I have the three here, Omnibus Volume 1, 2, and 3. I believe there is through 6, I think. And these collect a bunch of James Bond comic strips from back in the day. And they're really cool. It kind of reminds me of that, like Modesty Blaze action adventure black and white strip, which I enjoy a lot. There are also, it's confusing because I ended up getting these. You could get these used off Amazon for, which is what I did, for like pretty cheap. I mean, I think under $10 a book. They're not in like I wouldn't consider them to be mint condition, but they're also a little strange in that they're like soft covers. I mean, you can tell that, but they're also sewn in the front. Like they have a little eye hole in there, so it's weird. I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's like a nicer production quality soft cover. It has kind of like a plasticky feel to it. Again, like feels a little cheap, but then maybe not. It's strange. But they're really neat. There are also individual soft cover versions, which I don't know if they're bigger than the omnibus or not. If they are bigger, I might end up tracking those down. And then there are also, Titan has started doing hardcover reprints of these strips in the like kind of I don't know if traditional is the right word, but in the IDW like horizontal Library of American Comics style. I read some reviews of the hardcover ones before I pulled the trigger on these, and I think people were a little bit disappointed with them because they don't do anything nicer. They don't look any nicer than these books do, and they also are not collected chronologically. They're collected by like theme. So the first one that they did was a Spectre hardcover, which came out I think around the time of the Spectre movie, and kind of collected all the appearances of Spectre in the comics, but it wasn't in order. So I think people were a little miffed because these ones do collect it in the order of strip publication. So yeah, just kind of a cool thing to check out. I mean, especially if you're into black and white strip reprints, you can get these on the cheap. Like I said, really cheap. And I'm totally into them from what I've looked at. And when I get around to actually getting the other 3 in the set and reading them, I will let you know my full thoughts. This next chunk is a massive collection, all of the same series, but I'm just going to show you some of the books. Basically, I went through this series and ordered... This is sort of what I did with Modesty Blaze as well. I know that some of the books in this series are rare. See how I'm not telling you which series, I'm building the tension. Some of the books in this series are rare, so I didn't get all of them. What I did was I went through Amazon and eBay and basically picked up all of the cheap ones at the cheapest rate I could get. And then I'm going to go back and fill in the more expensive ones as I can. And that is Blackjack by Osamu Tezuka. This is a fantastic series. It's a series of 18 books, maybe 17. They're published by Vertical Comics, which does a lot of kind of nice manga reprints. They are doing the Mobile Suit Gundam one right now. They have done a lot of Tezuka stuff, his Buddha series, and a bunch of other ones. So I have like volume 6. I don't even know if I'm going to show them all to you, but volume 7. It's basically just a bunch of them. A bunch of different ones. They're all like small, manga size volumes. Some of the ones I got are library copies, which is fine by me. I don't really care. I mean, since these are soft cover, smaller books, I'm not like stressing about collecting the most pristine versions of them or anything. But yeah, this is the Blackjack series. I just realized I've probably been showing them all to you upside down because they're right to left books instead of left to right. And I'm used to reading left to right, obviously. It's a fantastic series. I've read a chunk of it on digitally when I was living in China, actually. I got, because I didn't really have access to physical comics there, so I read a bunch of stuff on free manga readers on iPad and stuff. And I read some of Blackjack, and I love it. It's about kind of like a rogue, Robin Hood surgeon type. This guy who is a surgeon and takes on these jobs for hire. He's kind of like a mercenary surgeon for hire, and he always seems it's a bunch of short stories, and he always seems motivated by kind of money and greed. At the beginning of every story, he's like, oh, I'll only do it for this much money. And then of course, as the story progresses, you learn that he's gonna use the money for good, or he's gonna somehow is gonna save somebody's life or whatever. He always has a good motive in there, and they're really fantastic. Tezuka actually was a medical student, I believe, before he became a graphic artist. I don't know if he's a full-blown doctor or not, but his illustrations of I don't know how well you can see that or not. His illustrations of human anatomy are fantastic. He draws he actually draws them very accurately to what is actually going on in real life, and apart from that, it's just a really great book. I mean, I love Tezuka. I think he is an absolute, people call him the god of manga. I think he definitely deserves all of that. He's the creator of Astro Boy. Was it Leo the I don't remember, is Jungle Warrior Leo or Jungle Emperor Leo, and tons of stuff. I will say it's sort of like Walt Disney. He was very influenced by Walt Disney, and he kind of draws a lot of his characters like that. But also similarly, these stories are of their time in a lot of racial and social senses. So even though I think Tezuka was kind of a progressive person in his life, he tends to draw different races and ethnicities with kind of exaggerated, if you've seen the early Disney stuff, you know what I'm talking about. And if that is something that turns you off, this might not be for you. But if you can kind of take it as a product of its time and roll with it, then I think it's fantastic. It's all short stories. The Vertical did a weird thing here, and they collected, like I said, I think 17 or 18 volumes. but they're not collected in the order of the strips that were done. I'm not really sure why or what the deal is, but at the end of volume 17 that I have, or 18, like I said, I don't remember, it gives a list of all the different strips and which volume they decided to collect it in. And there's like a handful, a very small handful, that were only collected in some limited hardcover versions, and then an even smaller handful that like never got translated. And I don't know why. I don't know the reasons for it. And I don't know why they chose to collect it in the order that they did, but that's there. If you are somebody who really needs to read it in the actual writing order and not in the order that these books collected in, maybe it's a turnoff. But I think that these are fantastic, and do yourself a favor and check this series out. If not in print, then at least digitally, because it's out there, and it's great. Blackjack by Tezuka. And why not keep the manga train rolling? These are just 2 books that I picked up used at bookstores. There's no rhyme or reason to the reason I picked these up, just that they were the ones that they had, and that is Samurai Executioner and Lone Wolf and Cub, the omnibus versions. Samurai Executioner Volume 2 and Lone Wolf and Cub Volume 8. These are both fantastic series by the same creative team, Kazuo Koike and Goseki Kojima. Koike, I hope I'm saying that right. Koike, I think it's Koike. That's how I'm going to say it. Is the writer on both of these, and Goseki Kojima is the artist, and they are fantastic. I mean, Kojima's art is worth checking out alone. It's astonishing how amazing of an artist he is for these series. Lone Wolf and Cub, very well known. The father and son, Ogami Ito and Daigoro, they go and basically try to gain back their family's honor, and as he was like disgraced former executioner of the shogunate, and now with his baby he wanders the countryside as a mercenary for hire. It's fantastic. There's a series of books, of course there's a series of books. There's a series of movies which are actually getting a release through the Criterion Collection, I think this month, and they're fantastic. It's a lot of like, bloody 70s practical samurai sword effects and stuff. They're great. And a lot of being like, Daigoro, Daigoro. It's really fantastic. And then Samurai Executioner is another series that they worked on, which, again, is kind of like these short morality tales based around a man, I don't know his name, who is the executioner for a shogun. And I think it's like the sort of tries to like show why he does what he does, or like who the people he executes are and what they, have done. It's really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. I have a bunch of the Lone Wolf and Cub singles from when they were printed like in the late 80s, early 90s. But as I came to realize, even though there's like 45 issues of those singles, it doesn't even collect like half of the volume 1 omnibus in those 45 issues. It's probably like that much of it. So, I mean, I don't like this format. They're so small. They're so tiny. They're like postcard size. I don't care for this format, but it's like the only way to really read them in a decent way, physically, because I'm not a big digital reader. But I really hope that I would like kill for a library edition of Lone Wolf and Cub. That'd be incredible. Or like a full-size hardcover omnibus from Dark Horse. Either way, fantastic series. I'm going to be picking up the omnibus as I find them. Probably, just pay $10 here and there for a used copy, and eventually I'll talk about them more in depth, because I can already tell you that I enjoy them immensely, but I'll give you a little bit more of an insight to them when I finally have the whole collection. But yeah, Kojima and Koike, you should look these guys up, because especially Kojima's art is unbelievable. Here's one that was basically a blind buy for me. I don't know much about it, and I still don't know much about it, so I don't have that much to say about it, but that is the Terminal City Library Edition. By Dean Motter and Michael Lark. I basically picked this up just because it is a Michael Lark book, and I love his art style on Daredevil, on his collaborations with Ed Brubaker. I think are fantastic. I'm not exactly sure when this came out, but flipping through it, I do feel like I don't feel like the art lived up to what I was hoping it would be. I feel like maybe it was a little bit earlier in his career, or at least like it doesn't feel like it has the same kind of look to it. I'm still interested in it. Dean Motter is the gentleman who did Mr. X, which I talked about previously on the channel. And he wrote this. I think it's kind of like a noir mystery in like a near future dystopia kind of deal. Sounds cool. I don't know much about it at all, but this is the library edition that Dark Horse put out, and based on the names behind it, I wanted to check it out. So I'll read it in not too long and get back to you. I mean, basically, it's just another win for Dark Horse putting out books this size at a price point of $50. So great job, Dark Horse. Looks beautiful. Like I said, don't know much about it, but I will rectify that in the near future. So Terminal City, check it out if you like those creators, but I can't say much else. While we're on Dark Horse, I might as well get to one of my most anticipated releases of the year overall. I was really looking forward to this, and that is The World of Adina, the first book in the Mobius library from Dark Horse. You can see on the side it has some stuff, the Mobius library, Mobius Productions, World of Adina. There was a lot of anticipation, a lot of kind of confusion, and a lot of interest on my part as to what this was actually going to be and what the Mobius library was going to be like. This is the first volume in it, just released at the end of October, and I am happy to report that it is, in a lot of ways, what I thought it would be. I was confused about the size of it. People were telling me it wasn't library size, it wasn't oversized, but I was almost certain that it was going to be oversized because most of these stories had been printed previously in softcover, and the softcovers were oversized in the sense that they were European graphic album size, which is wider and a little bit taller than a standard like American hardcover or a standard American trade paperback. So this is that size. This is the size of a European graphic album, which is to say, like I said before, wider than a standard hardcover and a touch taller. It's about the height of a OHC, but wider. Height of an oversized hardcover, but much wider. This looks really nice, having flipped through it, and I think this is great. It's fantastic. For, a $50 price point to collect a bunch of Mobius stuff, I think this is exactly what I was hoping it was going to be. The thing that I am kind of confused about is the release schedule and how this is actually going to work. Because at the end of the book, it has a page that says, coming in 2017, The Art of Adina. And then it says that there will be 3 books coming in 2018, The Mobius Library Inside Mobius. So if that's all they're really planning on releasing is 4 books in the next 2 years of this line, like that's really slow to me. I was hoping to get like an Airtight Garage book. I was hoping to get an Arzak volume in this. I was hoping that there might be a chance of them collecting the Blueberry stuff in these, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't know like how much mileage I'm actually going to get out of this library of Mobius stuff, because to be quite frank with you, I think I love a lot of what Mobius has done. Like, I think his work on Blueberry and his work on the Ink Hall is almost second to none, and it's incredible. But I think a lot of his stuff where he just does his own stuff tends to be too kind of weird and like inside jokey, and it kind of reads like Mad Magazine and kind of strange to me. It's not like exactly my thing. So while I will be picking up, I think, basically everything from this line, just because there haven't been a lot of nice hardcover English translations of Mobius, I do wonder the value and enjoyment people will get out of this once it's kind of apparent that what people know Mobius from is maybe not the stuff that's going to be coming out in this library. So I'm not sure. Either way, I think it's really cool, and I think without hesitation, the Adina stuff, I would say, jump on that. It's kind of like his version of Adam and Eve, trippy, weird, and awesome. And yeah, it looks really cool, and the book is of great quality, and the production like value and everything looks really nice. So I am both pleasantly surprised at what is actually in this package and slightly concerned about what is going to be the future of this Mobius library endeavor. So very cool though. I'm interested now. It kind of makes me want to go back and pick up the Milo Manara library that Dark Horse had out, because I don't think of Dark Horse when I think of Euro comics, and and that kind of stuff, like reprints of graphic albums. But this they handled really well, so it does make me want to go look back at the Manara stuff and check out some, because I think there's like 4 volumes of Manara books and then maybe 2 of erotica from him, something like that, the Dark West put out. So either way, very cool. When at least when it comes to this book, I would say check it out without hesitation. It's really great, especially if you love the Inkall and kind of trippy sci-fi stuff, because this is very much in that vein. So super cool. Ooh, doggy, this video is going to be a long one, I'm telling you. So here's the next set of books I have are 2 of the new deluxe editions from Image, and that is the Fade Out and Outcast. Fade Out, I did not read any of when it was coming out, but I heard it was really great. Another kind of noir style story from Brubaker and Phillips. I have not read their work on, they've worked together on Sleeper, Criminal, Incognito, maybe some other stuff. That's just what I can think of off the top of my head. And I haven't read that stuff, but I have collected a lot of it in the anticipation of reading a lot of it. And this is their latest from Image. It was a limited series, and now it's collected in a deluxe hardcover. Looks really lovely. If you like that Brubaker Phillips noir thing, then this is gonna do it for you. And the other one is Outcast by Kirkman and Azaceta. This is a horror book from the writer of The Walking Dead and Invincible, but I think it's not horror in the sense of The Walking Dead is horror. I think it's much more like psychological, possession, devils, demons, and stuff like that. This collects the first 12 issues. It looks really nice. It is a standard kind of Image hardcover, which is to say sewn binding. They've been doing that more recently, and yeah, looks lovely. I've heard this book is pretty like genuinely creepy. I haven't read any of it, but I had some friends who were reading it when I first started, and I've heard it is very creepy. And I think there's a show either out now or coming out soon on like one of the premium cable networks which adapts this. So Outcast is now out in hardcover if you're interested. Here's a big interesting one from IDW. This is the Hammett and Raymond Secret Agent X9. If you know the stuff that I collect and that I'm interested in right now, I had picked up the Agent X9 stuff from, I guess it's called actually X9 Secret Agent Corrigan as I'm looking at it to my left. And that is the run on this same kind of character and strip that Al Williamson had worked on in the 60s and 70s. I believe with Archie Goodwin was writing it. I think so, yeah. And this is the original run on that character from the 30s from Dashiell Hammett and Alex Raymond. Hammett being the writer who did The Maltese Falcon, as well as what's his other big one? There's 2 that I like know off the top of my head, and I'm forgetting one of them. So, but I know he did The Maltese Falcon at least. Yeah, this is one of like the first kind of detective comic strips. This collects the 30s comic strip. It also went on through the 40s and the 50s into the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I think, at least up through the 70s. So yeah, this is like a, Library of American Comics IDW style 34 to 36. So pretty darn cool. I love collecting these strip reprints, and I want to get around to reading this both because I love Alex Raymond and because the Secret Agent X9 stuff is really appealing to me, and I like the later stuff, so I wanted to check out where that character came from. Here's one that I know basically nothing about because I haven't read it yet, but this is Lock and Key Volume 3, Master Edition Volume 3. This is the 3rd hardcover, which collects Lock and Key Clockworks as well as Lock and Key Alpha and Omega. Now that I have all 3 volumes, I'm going to read it. I was waiting to get all of them before I read it, and I have only heard fantastic stuff about this series, so interested to get in it, but I don't know much else. So, yeah, Lock and Key. Now all 3 of those are out and completed. If you were waiting to check out the hardcovers until they were all out, now's your chance. This next one is a really fantastic and very interesting one that I was recommended to me by a gentleman on Facebook, and this is Setting the Standard. Comics by Alex. I've been saying it Toth, but I've heard people say it's Toth, so I'll say Toth. Comics by Alex Toth. This is a book that was put out by Fantagraphics, and it collects his output from 1952 to 1954. This is super interesting. He was working, you probably know Alex Toth from his work on animation with like Hanna-Barbera and stuff. That's more than likely where the majority of people would know him from. Like Space Ghost and Super Friends and all that stuff. He did the, like, those kind of classic clean 60s, 70s animation designs were his. He also did some work basically freelancing around to different Marvel and DC, different companies like that. He actually penciled an issue of X-Men, one of the original ones with Jack Kirby, I think, like issue 10 or something like that. But either way, what he was doing in the 50s was, like I said, a lot of freelance work, and he was working for this company called Standard Comics, doing basically a variety of genre comics which were popular in the 50s, like romance, war, mystery, horror, action comics, all that kind of stuff. And it's all collected here. It's a big, nice, thick paperback that Fantagraphics put out. All of the stories he ever did for Standard Comics from 1952 to 1954. And it looks fantastic. It looks really cool, like especially if you're into like EC Comics and the 50s era kind of comic stuff, and you like kind of that classic art that he's known for. I think you should definitely give this a check out. And yeah, it's very cool. I haven't read it yet. Obviously, I haven't read basically anything that was in this haul because I just got it all. But yeah, I'm very excited to dig into this. It looks really cool. Setting the Standard. You can find it on Amazon or in stock trades, I think, for pretty cheap for a softcover copy. I don't think there was a hardcover copy, but there it is. And one last thing before we get into the sort of big two, which I have a couple things from. And that is going to be my little Flash Gordon collection that I'm starting to build. I found this, which is really interesting, but I don't know much about it. I've flipped through it, and I do think it is interesting. It is a fanzine, a fan magazine from like 1972 called Heritage that was put out, and it's labeled as Heritage 1A and Heritage 1B. As far as I know, these were the only copies or the only issues of Heritage ever put out. It seems like what they were trying to do was that they were trying to do like Volume 1 would be Flash Gordon, and then they would do issues like A, B, C, and D of Flash Gordon stuff, and then Volume 2 would be, say, Tarzan, and then they would do A, B, C, and D of Tarzan. But I don't think they ever got around to doing anything outside of Flash Gordon. And so this collects a bunch of really great illustrators. There's work in here from Neil Adams, there's work in here from Wally Wood, there's work in here from Alex Raymond, there's work from Frazetta, there's stuff from tons of great artists. I think there's some Al Williamson stuff in here. Well, Al Williamson did the cover of this, for sure. And yeah, it's really interesting. I paid like, I think $20 each for these, about $25, because they're, they've never been reprinted anywhere. They're just like these fanzines, and it's half kind of like short comic stories, and then it's half like interviews with people who played Flash Gordon on TV and sort of like articles about Flash Gordon and stuff. So as I am getting more into Flash Gordon, not because I like think that the story or anything is particularly amazing, but he happened to have a fantastic slew of creators who were interested and worked on him in the pulp kind of era and stuff. So yeah, it's really very cool and interesting. These are Heritage 1A and B Flash Gordon fanzines. You can find them on eBay and stuff. Check them out if you're into that time period of 70s, art. And then to go along with that, this is something that I think is really cool. This is Al Williamson's Flash Gordon, A Lifelong Vision of the Heroic. This is a book that is fantastic. This is put out by Flesk Publications, and they are a publishing company which handles like a couple different artists. I know Mark Schultz's stuff is published through them, the Xenozoic Tales, and I met one of their reps when I was at Baltimore. And they're really nice people. And this book is really, really nice. It collects everything that Al Williamson has ever done on Flash Gordon, through the like his earlier kind of attempts at it and some of the fanzine stuff, and then into the King comic stuff in the 60s when it was relaunched, and then into like the film adaptation it has in here, and then I believe that there was even a Marvel series for some period of time, and it's all in glorious high-res scanned black and white, and it looks fantastic. Um, Unfortunately, I overpaid for this. If you look online, basically anywhere, you're gonna see it for like tons of money, lots of money. If you go on Amazon or eBay, it's probably gonna be like over $100. However, hot scoop for all of you Nerdventures fans out there: if you go directly to Flesk Publications website, if you just search for Flesk or Flesk or Flesk Publications, they actually have copies of this for $15 in the like nick and dent thing. If you go to artists and go to Al Williamson on the website, look at the books that they have put out for him, they have these going for $15. So my loss is your gain, because I didn't find that out until after I bought this book. I didn't pay $100 something for it, but I definitely paid more than 15. So yeah, if you don't mind like a little bit of scuffs and dings on your soft covers, then they have copies of this for $15, and holy shit, is it worth $15? Absolutely. This is an absolutely fantastic book. I mean, I haven't read all the comics inside, but I can tell you just from looking at it and, you know, my love of Al Williamson, that this is going to be one of my all-time favorite books of... I mean, look at that shit. Nobody draws like him. Fantastic inker, fantastic penciler. I mean, just, in my opinion, just the best. I love him. So, yeah. This is a super oversized book. It's almost like absolute size. It's really large, but it's soft cover. There is also a hardcover version, but I think that is like legitimately really expensive. So check it out. Al Williamson's Flash Gordon from, I don't know if you can see that down there, from Flesk. So yeah, give it a look, especially for $15. You can't go wrong with this, seriously. All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. Well, there's actually still a bunch of books left, but this is my lone Marvel book, I believe, in this whole lot, and that is the War of Kings Omnibus. Big old chunky bad boy, just recently released this last week. It's got a kind of like wraparound modern style cover instead of the like traditional black spine stuff. But yeah, I am really excited and interested in reading the modern Marvel Cosmic stuff. I have Annihilation and Annihilation Conquest, and the way it's basically going to go is if you read Annihilation Conquest, then there's going to be a Road to War of Kings Omnibus released next year. Then there's the War of Kings Omnibus released right now, and then there's going to be an Aftermath to War of Kings Omnibus, which is also going to be released next year. So the release order is kind of out of whack, but once you have all 5 of those omnibus on your shelf, you then are good to go to read through the Marvel Cosmic series altogether, and that's what I am planning on doing. So this is the War of Kings one. I believe it collects stuff that crosses over from Guardians of the Galaxy, Nova, and X-Men. It's like Inhuman / War of Kings, or Inhuman / X-Men. It is modern comics. It is modern kind of big budget Marvel house style comics, and that comes with it an inconsistency in art that I don't find to be super appealing. A lack of kind of a cohesive vision that some of the older, smaller scale comics that I like tend to have. But I'm still interested in reading this and just getting the overall story. I've heard only great things about, Adi Abnett and Lanning and the modern Marvel Cosmics. So I will be diving into these huge books eventually when they are all released next year and telling you what I think. But it's going to be a while. And then finally, let's cap this off with some DC stuff. First off, I got a really cool volume, which is the Viking Prince, the Joe Kubert Viking Prince collection. This is part of that line that all of the Jack Kirby Omnibus and Steve Ditko stuff and Jack Kirby Fourth World and all that stuff was collected in. It has that like newsprint feel to it. They're standard size hardcovers with like a very pop art inspired kind of look to them. They're nice. I don't think they're like the be all end all of collections. They are standard size glued binds, but they collect some really cool content. I mean, especially Viking Prince. I'm on a big Joe Kubert kick for my entire life, basically. I could look at Joe Kubert every day and read some of his comics and be a happy person. So, Viking Prince is some of the stuff that he did in, I think it's The Brave and the Bold and Our Army at War. I don't know if they were backup stories. I think they were backup stories, or at least, back then those magazines had multiple stories per issue. So, This is one that he was working on back in the day, and yeah, it's fantastic. I love Joe Kubert to death, and this is just more Kubert, so I'm a happy person. I think there's one or two more types in this. I have almost all of the books in this series. There's one or two more in there that I haven't picked up. I think one's like Atomic Knights, and then another one is, I don't remember, but eventually I'm gonna have them all. Next up is an oversized hardcover that I don't know much about, but I wanted to pick up because it is the DC Universe by Neil Gaiman. I like Neil Gaiman. Seems like a pretty chill guy. And as I understand it, it basically collects kind of like all of his different works through the DC Universe, which I believe are kind of like all little standalone things. It collects stuff from like all the way back, I think maybe into like the 90s and stuff like that, all the way up through more modern stories. At least that's what the art looks like. So I'm interested in it. There's a lot of stuff in here. It also has the Wednesday Comics Metamorpho stuff, which I already have collected in the Wednesday Comics, like big oversized hardcovers. So a little bit of double dipping, but I like Neil Gaiman, and I'm willing to give stuff that he works on a little chance. So yeah, I just checked it out. This one is pretty awesome from what I've read through so far, which is not much, but that is the Teen Titans Silver Age Omnibus. This looks actually really cool. It's the Silver Age stuff, so starting from, I think, like, let me read what it actually says, from 1964 and then going all the way up to 1969. It collects Teen Titans 1 through 24, the Hawk and Dove miniseries 1 through 6, as well as the Teen Titans debuted, I think, in The Brave and the Bold and Showcase. So yeah, it's basically the 60s era Teen Titans stuff. This is, Kid Flash, Aqualad, all that stuff, So if you're into like Wally West as the Flash, and I don't really know all the different characters, but it's really quite cool. The art gets better as it goes along, as in my opinion the 60s, I kind of like stuff from like the mid half onwards of the 60s a little bit more than the earlier stuff, but looks really great. It's nice and thick. It is constructed in the exact same style as any DC omnibus is, black boards, relatively tight binding, but it's okay. It's not exactly the quality of Marvel, but it's fine. And this isn't numbered. It doesn't have Silver Age Omnibus Volume 1, so I don't know if we're going to get a Bronze Age Omnibus or not, and then I don't know if we're going to get reprints of the Wolfman and Perez run or not, but even for just a standalone, I think if you're into those characters, the Teen Titans, and you kind of want to see where they came from, it's a fun read. And then last but not least, the very controversial, absolute Batman Year One. Very stark cover here, or slipcase, that is. This is the absolute edition of Batman Year One. It was on a lot of people's radar because it's a great story, but then a lot of people were miffed at it because it's quite expensive. $125 cover price for what amounts to 4 issues. They are fantastic issues. Don't get me wrong. I love this series and this book. But it is 4 issues presented one way, the same 4 issues presented another way, and then breakdowns and scripts for those 4 issues. So you really, really gotta love those 4 issues to even think about getting this. It's basically one book that's like this, which is as you would expect from an Absolute. It is scans from the original boards with kind of like a, I wouldn't say modern because it looks good. It looks great. It doesn't look cheap or anything, but with a coloring job that is kind of like a remaster version of it. I think it looks fantastic. I think this first volume is great. It is exactly what I wanted out of an Absolute. And then the second volume is a little strange, I think. It is the same 4 issues scanned directly from the original 80s comics. Like it says on there, they just found like good quality versions of these comics and they scanned directly into the Absolute. It doesn't look terrible, but it looks like it's from the 80s. Like it looks like it looks like they scanned the books from the 80s, and I don't know, it's weird. Like I remember when the deluxe version came out, which had, I think, this coloring job on it, and Mazzucchelli, it's Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. Mazzucchelli like put out a little statement or something saying how he was not a fan of the new coloring job and that they had done this without his consultation. So maybe that's why they felt the need to include this original scans. But I really don't I don't get it. Like I don't think it looks bad, and it's printed on the newsprint style paper. It's not printed on like glossy thick paper. So yeah, if you want to read it in two ways and approximate being back in the 80s, you can with this Absolute. And then apart from that, there are script and breakdown stuff, which is cool because it collects everything from the books, but it's not in like, it's like 4 pages to a page on here. So it's not like you can really see and study it because they chopped off a lot of stuff. Well, no, they didn't chop it off. Just they packed it really tight, having 4 pages of scripts and 4 pencil layouts in one page, like, isn't exactly the best way to study and read this stuff, but it exists if you so desire. Yeah, at this moment, I would say to hold off on the Absolute. My recommendation would be to go for the deluxe edition that was released a while ago, which had the nice coloring job from what I consider to be at least a nice coloring job and kind of the remaster look. I don't know how expensive that is. I believe that's out of print now, so maybe I'm recommending that when in actuality it's going to be expensive, but I think almost assuredly it's got to be less than the 60 or 70 bucks you would pay for this Absolute, if you got it online. So while I think that this is a cool thing and it's a story that I love and have been interested in picking up an Absolute, and I'm glad I got it in Absolute, I'm not going to recommend it at this moment to anybody just because of what the content is. It doesn't seem like it really warrants picking up in the Absolute edition versus picking up in a hardcover or the deluxe edition. I mean, Mazzucchelli's art is stunning, still amazing, it's great. But yeah, it's an odd choice for an Absolute edition, and how they decided to collect the same 4 issues of content in different ways and stuff. So I don't know. I would have rather have seen it at a $75 price point for one really thin book, which I think people still would have been angry about, but I would have rather paid that than, see this kind of double printing of the same stuff. So if you guys stuck around to the end of this, kudos to you. It's now 45 minutes later. I've talked what little voice I had left into oblivion, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me babble on about all of these books that I picked up. It was a big month, like I said, my birthday was at the end of October, so right around that time I was going on Amazon and kind of like getting a bunch of used books that I was interested in. And yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I have enjoyed flipping through most of it, and I mean, I don't really do that many blind buys. Like, honestly, I pretty much know what I'm going to get, as it's coming out, so it's not like I've been super surprised by anything, but there's a couple in here that I think show, extra promise, especially that Flash Gordon. Go grab that for $15. Like, seriously, don't even think twice about that, because there can't be that many copies of it left at $15. And yeah, you need that in your life. I don't care what type of comics you're into, you need that in your life. And yeah, everything else I think will be reviewed. In the case of Batman Year One, I'll probably be doing a review on that sooner than later. In the case of some of these, you're probably not going to see them again for months or years. So I hope you enjoyed following along with my haulage for this month. And I will be back with more podcast reviews, all that good stuff, in the upcoming weeks. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. As always, thank you guys so very much for tuning in and being part of the Nerdventures channel and community. If you would like to, feel free to click the subscribe link underneath this little pop-up video, where you can get notifications of all the different things, like when we go live for our live stream recordings and book clubs and everything, as well as all the latest videos from me. If you're interested also, you can check out the Patreon link, which I hope is over in that corner and I'm pointing the correct way, where you can see all of the different reward tiers and cool little goodies that you can get for supporting the channel on Patreon. And I would also like to give an infinite thanks to all of those fine gentlemen and ladies who are in the Nerdventures Hall of Fame credits. Thank you so very much. We could not make the channel and the podcast happen without you. Well, we could, but it wouldn't be that great. Well, it would still be great, but it wouldn't be that fun. So thank you so much for tuning in. The community is what makes it all fun, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hope you have a great one.